Welcome back. So in our last session, we had started working on the foundation plan, and so far we have offset the wall lines in the current layer, which is a foundation wall. And now we want to continue this session by looking at how you create the stiffeners, turn them into W blocks, then insert them into the drawing. So of course, we are going to be working with some standard stiffeners. That will be I, stiffener L shape, and T shape. So I'm going to share with you what these drawings will look like. All right, so on screen, we're seeing the typical stiffeners that we'll be working with. So we have the I stiffener here. The size of it is 150 by 300. We have the L stiffener, and the size of that is 300 by 300, and these are 150 distances, the shorter sides. And the T stiffener, 450 across at the top, and these short distances are 150 going all around. If you notice in this case, I have also highlighted the base point which we plan to use. So these orange dots that we are seeing on screen represents the base point that we're going to be choosing when we're doing the W block. And we are going to also hatch with a pattern called concrete hatch. So I'll be introducing the hatch command at this stage. And the scale will be 0.75. The pattern is AR conc. And of course, we must remember that once we are creating anything that has to do with a block, then it should be done in 0 layer. So at this time, we're going to go back to the AutoCAD screen where we look at how you create the stiffeners into W blocks. All right, so let me share the CAD screen with you again, where we will continue with that. All right, so here we're going to set our 0 layer current. And then with the line command and the ortho enable, I'm going to work with the line command, that's L for line, enter. Now I'm going to just draw these in space. So I'm going to pick a point anywhere, it doesn't matter where, and then pull horizontal. For the I stiffener, we're going 150, enter. Now, if you notice, that's a very small distance, so I need to zoom in so it will look a little bigger on screen, zoomed up. So we're going 300 in this direction, 150 in that direction, and we could just type C for close, enter. So that's the outline of the I stiffener. I will do likewise for the L stiffener, pick a point adjacent to that one, going 300 down, 300 across, and then 150 going around, 150, enter. So you give your direction, you enter your distance, press enter. Direction, distance, enter. C, enter, or you give your direction and do likewise. But I'll just do C for close, enter. And we'll do one more. So L for line, enter, pick a point, start point. We're going 450 across, which is the distance, and then all the distance is going around, forming the shape letter T will be 150. So we're going down, distance, 150, enter. Direction, 150, enter. Going down again, south, 150, enter. We're going west, 150, enter. North, 150, enter. West, one more time, 150, enter, and then C to close. So what we have here now is a representation of the outline for these 3 stiffeners, the I, the L, and the T. And the position in which they are drawn represents the 0-degree position. So before we go into the steps to turn these into W block, we need to know hatch inside here with a concrete pattern. So let's look at the hatch command. So H would be your shortcut for hatch, enter. Then what it will do, it will launch the hatch creation tab. Now this is a contextual tab. It's only available in its use. If I were to press escape, you notice it's not there anymore. But if I go H, enter, it comes back. So it's a contextual tab. Now, the second panel, which is called the pattern panel, I'm going to expand that down by clicking on this down arrow, and it will expand this down. And if you scroll down, you will notice on the right here in the last column, there's a pattern called AR Conc. That's the pattern I am going to choose by clicking on it. So here's our pattern. Then the properties panel, which is adjacent to the pattern panel, we have the scale just about here. The default scale is 1, which we are going to be changing to 0.75. Now, because we have set our decimal precision to 1 decimal place, as soon as I press enter, I expect to see 0.8, but it will still do the job of 0.7. It's just that it will only display the round off value. All right, so before we start selecting areas though, we need to ensure that we go to the options panel, expand that, and ensure that we have create separate hatches highlighted. What that means, when I come inside of the hatch pattern, the hatch area, which has to be enclosed, and click, this pattern will be separate from this one over here, as well as this one over here. So once you press enter, and if you select, you'll notice that that one was individually selected, and it now gives you hatch editor, not creator. So you could not hatch creation as before, but hatch editor, which means that we could go and modify the existing shape. Now, if it is that when you select one of your pattern, you realize that all 3 of them are highlighted, then it's because you would not have chosen the option that says create separate hatches. But that's not an issue. You can still go back to options, and this would be highlighted that says separate hatches. And then now you would be able to get them separated if you didn't do that before. So that is how you hatch the stiffeners. Remember that these shapes cannot be hatched unless they are enclosed. So it is very important that you note that when these are drawn, they should be drawn properly so that there is no opening. All right, so our next step that we will move on into is to look at how you make each of these into a W block. So we're going to be making 3 of them. So I would have told you before that there are 3 essential things that you must do once you are creating a W block. And we looked at this before. You must select what you intend to turn into this block. You must have a base point that you're going to be choosing, as well as you're going to have a file name. All right, so let's do those 3 most important things. I will begin with the eye stiffener by clicking from left to right to make a window around the stiffener itself. Click on that. Then we're going to launch our command for W block, which is letter W, enter. So that will now launch the right block dialog box, which is the W block option. And we are going to be turning an object, which is what is drawn on screen currently, into this W block. So the first thing you will note is that because we had selected the object prior to launching the command, which is what I refer to as select command, where you select and then you issue the command, we could have chosen the option to launch the command and select the object. But in such case, you would have had to now use this button to go back and select the object, right? But because we selected the object first, you notice down here it is saying 5 objects selected. And that would be those 4 lines forming the boundary plus the hatch pattern, giving a total of 5 objects. All right, so I am going to choose the option to delete from drawing when I'm finished under the select object. So I don't need to select the object again because it is previously selected. What I need to do now is to assign a base point. So I'm going to click on this button, which will take me to screen. And at the lower right hand corner, I am going to pick my base point. Right, so it has marked the spot and it's now giving me the absolute coordinate X and Y value to that position on screen. All right, so we have done two of the three things. We have selected our object. We have chosen a base point by picking it. The last but not least thing to do is to now give this file a name and save it somewhere. So what I will do is to use this button to browse to the location where I need to save it by clicking on that, and it's taking me to my block library. So this is the block library that was created earlier. So I'm going to create another one already, if you notice, because I'd created some previous L stiffeners. You are now seeing them on I and T as well. So what I will do is to use the same name as before and put a number 3 after it. So the I stiffener is here as the second one. I'm going to create a third one and call it I stiffener 3. Okay, and I'm going to save it so that AutoCAD 2013 and above will be able to utilize this block because it was stored as a lower version. The default version would have been 2018, but I have forced my machine to save objects as 2013 file format. So any of them coming forward would be able to read this file. So we just need to click save and it will generate the file path to get to that place. All I need to do is click OK. You notice the unit is millimeter because it was drawn in a metric environment. So because I indicated earlier that this should be deleted from drawing, when I click OK, I expect to see it disappearing, which indeed has happened. So we will repeat the same steps now for the L and the I stiffener. So first I will select, launch my command, W enter. I'm going to pick my base point in the inside corner here. Zoom in to ensure it's accurate. Good. Then I will browse to my block library and give it the name. So L stiffener 3, save, and then OK. So that's gone. Likewise for the T stiffener, select the object, launch your command, already selected. So I need to pick my base point, which is going to be on the inside corner here. It could have been any one of them, but I'm using this one because that was the one that was given on the worksheet. So we click on that and then browse now to the block library for the T stiffener, and I'm going to call it 3. Then click save, followed by OK, and it will disappear. All right, so now that we have created these W blocks, we will now insert them into the S-stiffener layer. Now the position in which it was drawn first looks like this, 0 degree. So if you remember, if you're using AutoCAD 2019 and below, when you launch the insert command as I enter, it will give you the insert dialog box from which you can browse to your location, bring it in, assign your angle, and then insert. So you can only do one of each orientation at a time. So these will be the angles to insert them when we're ready. 0, 90, 180, 270. So you will insert one of each type and copy and paste into the other location. All right, so, but for AutoCAD 2020 and AutoCAD 2021, when you launch the insert dialog, you will get a different palette now, which is called the blocks palette. So let me go ahead and set my S-stiffener layer current so that when it is inserted, it will take on the properties of that. So let me zoom in right here so you can see what's going on. So I would be the shortcut for insert, but now we are seeing our blocks palette. Now I am on the recent tab, which means that all blocks that would have been created on this software since the day that it was installed are now going to be available here. In my current drawing, you will notice only blocks that are currently inserted can be displayed or is available here. So I'm going to go to Recent tab, and here at the top, you will notice that these are the stiffeners that were just created. You look at the date and the time, you'll notice that it is today's date and the time. So I will start with the L-shaped stiffener, which is this one. But before you do that, you want to ensure that your rotation option as well as your repeat placement is enabled. So as you insert, you can rotate and you can continue inserting with the repeat option. That was introduced in AutoCAD 2020. So I will go ahead and click on this, come to the screen. Notice it takes on the properties of it. I'm going to click in this corner, but then I want the angle to be, let me turn off my ortho. No, I prefer to turn it on so it will make life easy for me. Now if I want, I could click on this line for 0 degree, but the default angle is 0. So I could go ahead and just press enter and it knows the angle. All right, what about over here? Well, of course, this corner would be 90. So you have two options. You can click, pull up, and go out in space until there's no O snap popping up. Then you could click, and it will register that distance, that angle. Or you could click and literally type the angle in. So this would be, it's now at 0. You would get 90 going that way. Then you would get 180 and 270. So the angle would be 270. So it doesn't matter where you are. You could just type 270 or minus 90, enter, and your angle is there. So we will continue. This one would have been 90. All right, so this one is 90. You could type 90, enter. This one up here would be 180. So of course you could click 180, enter. This one is also 270. So click 270 or minus 90. Likewise here. Minus 90. Good. So we have all of our L stiffeners in. I'm not putting any more in. What I will now put in is the T and the I. So escape, go back again for the I stiffener. Well, let's start with the T. So T, but this one needs to go all the way around to be at 180 degrees, an about turn. Now you have the option to rotate if you wish first, and then you could just know where to click. If you notice in your command line, there's the option for rotate. So if I type R for rotate, enter, then I could always give my angle, which is 180, enter, and then you just know where to click. Now because you have given the angle before, you just click and that's it, the angle is known. So again, I could do the same thing, R for rotate, enter, and you want to go clockwise 1 quadrant. So that will be minus 90 or 270. So minus 90, enter, and then you would click there to place. All right, so we have no more T stiffener. Remember, an L stiffener would be placed here because there's a doorway. If you look at your floor plan, if we had put this stiffener here, then you know what would happen. The door would have to be shifted down. So that is why we only put the L stiffener at this corner here. All right, so I'm going to move over now to the I stiffener, and what I want is on this west wall, the I should basically be centered with the wall. But remember, our base point was not in the midpoint, so we're going to fix that as we go along. All right, so if I go to I stiffener, click on that, you'll notice the base point right now is not suitable. So what I would do in the command line again, you have the option to change the base point. So if I type B for base point, it will freeze that one on screen and allow me to choose a more appropriate base point. So in this case, midpoint will be more appropriate. I click here to hold it. And then as I move along this line, midpoint pops up. All I need to do is just click. And of course, the default angle is 0, so I'll just press enter. All right, now I have two more to be placed, but I'm going to use the tracking to assist me with it. So first I need to rotate it 90 going anti-clockwise, 1 quadrant. So R, enter, and 90 because it's going anti-clockwise. Now if I were to click here, it would place it. So what I need to do is to track from this position going in that direction. But it's always good to remember that once you're doing your tracking, your nearest O snap needs to be on. Good. So I'm turning on nearest. When you finish, you click on screen to get rid of that menu popping up. Then we're going to launch TK for tracking, enter. This will be my starting position. There's a door opening of 976. So as I pull that way, it's 976, enter first, and then you have to press enter one more time to end the tracking. Good. Now the front door. If you remember quite well, we had an 800 distance from here to this corner and then 976 from there to there. So having add both of them, we know that 800 plus 976 is 1776. So we have two options. We can track the whole distance, or we could start tracking from here. All right, so that when it is rotated, then it will just be there in place. All right, so I'm going to rotate first. No, I think it's down here. Down here. So R for rotate, enter. Angle again is 90. Then I'm going to start tracking. TK, enter. And I'm zooming out so you can see where I'm at, front of the building. Start tracking here. Now, 1776 will be from here going across. But because I'm tracking 300 away from there to here, I need to minus that 300 from the 1776. You could also track from here and use 1776. But since I'm going to work from here, I'll use 1476. So I click here after TK, enter, pull in that direction. So it's 1476, enter, enter. Good. So now we have all of our stiffeners in. Let me press escape. Now somebody might be wondering why it is that I did not put a stiffener here and up there. Well, I didn't put a T-stiffener here because there's a door opening, but I didn't put a T-stiffener here and an L-stiffener here because this one is tying this wall and that wall, and the T-stiffener is tying that one. Certainly if I was going more than one floors, then I would need to put it at every intersection. But because it's a single story building, at the corners here, we just overlap the blocks and just put the steel in and reinforce the corner. You don't have to put a stiffener at every single corner since we're not going up 2 stories. So we're going to call out one of each type and put in the dimensions along with the text. So let me start with the text first. So what I will do is to set my text layer current and go to my floor plan and copy all the room text from the floor plan by selecting them, as well as the title. All right, so all 5 areas along with the title. So it's time now to launch the copy command, CO for copy, enter. I'm going to pick a reference on the building, which I can use on the foundation plan across here, and then press escape. So what it means is that all of those texts are now in the same position as they were in the floor plan. So that's working smart and not hard. But the title needs to be renamed. So of course, this is our foundation plan and not the floor plan. So we can double click on floor plan and it takes me to the enhanced attribute editor directly to that particular value, which we're changing from floor plan to foundation plan. So we could just type over it or take out everything and replace that. So Foundation, foundation plan. And it's drawing number 2 now. And the scale remains the same. So no need to change that. All we need to do now is click OK and select the object once. If you want to edit, you double click, takes you back into the enhanced attribute editor where you can make other changes. But we are okay, so we just need to click on it once, zoom in, hot grip, and pull until the 0 and the N is in line. Good, so the title is now laid out nicely. All right, so what is left to be done in the text aspect of it is to call out one of each stiffener. So I'll use the circle to do that. C, enter. Let me just estimate a center point for my circle. And we could work with a radius of about 500. Good. Now I'm going to copy this text by launching the copy command. Paste that over here. Let me turn off my ortho so I can go at whatever angle I feel. So I'm going to click right here to paste. Select it once, and I'm going to resize that to accommodate more than one row and increase the width a little. All right, so to edit now, we know we can just double click to select the text to go into the edit mode. But if I double click again, it will also select the text, and then I could just type over it. So C, stiffener. Let me resize this out a little. So that when I press enter, it will take me to line 2. T-Y-P-E. Type, and in this case here, it's a T, so type T in open and close quotation. Now, all I need to do, instead of doing the same thing 3 times, is to select the text and the circle, launch the copy command, estimate a point central somewhere, and we're going to insert it right here for the L, and 1 somewhere off here for the I. Then we can double click and rename T to I, as well as renaming T to L. So we have successfully called out one of each type, which points to a detail that would be in the drawing that will tell you how to create the stiffener for the workmen on site. How many bars are required, the size of the bar, the mixture of the concrete and all of that. We're not getting into that right now. All right, so we have all our stiffeners in place. We have our title. Our next move now would be to insert our text. All right, so we're going to insert rather our dimension, not text. We have the text already. So let's set our dimension layer current. Or before I do that, let me offset, just put a guideline in. 600 for my first row of my dimension. So O, enter, 600, enter. Of course, I will erase this line when I'm finished. I'm just using it as a guideline so that I know how far out to put my first row dimension. Remember, the baseline feature only works between lines, and there is no line down here, dimension line. So we can't work with baseline for line 1. So we use linear and continue to finish up, and then baseline for line 2. So that's what we're going to do now. Let me go to my dimension layer to set that current. Annotate, tab on the ribbon, dimension panel. Here is the option for linear. So we're going to click on linear, click on the outside corner, click on the inside corner, pull straight up, and let me get perpendicular O snap, which I need at this time. All right, so I'm going to go up here and click perpendicular. That one is done. The same thing can be done around here for the next wall. So I'll just press enter to repeat my command. Click on the outside corner, click on that corner, and then go perpendicular. So what we're trying to measure for line 1 would be the width of the footing, which is what the excavation trench also measures, and the distance between the footing or between the trench. So this measurement would be required when they are lining out the building in order to know where to put our partition walls with the foundation footing. All right, so let's continue these two. We're going to select the 450, hover over the second grip, choose continue dimension, and then you move out and click inside there and across 450 from there and going right across the building. You just need to pick each inside or outside corner. Then press escape once you finish line 1. The same thing needs to be done around here. So I would select the 450, and because I want to continue in that direction, we need to hover over this one and choose continue all the way down and click on the inside corner and then the outside corner. So again, we get the 450. The others, no difference. Same principle. So you could go with your, repeat your command for dim linear. We could click on this outside corner and this inside corner, come straight down, perpendicular. And I'll just continue. Same time, click on that in that direction, hover, continue dimension, then inside here and outside there. Escape. Of course, on this side here, there's no need for me to put a line 1 like this, since I'm going to capture the 150 on this wall and 150 on that wall. So of course, I just need a overall dimension. So we use linear for that again. Click that outside corner, click that outside corner, pull out, that's the distance there. Enter to repeat this outside corner and that outside corner. That's it. So our dimension for line 1 on all walls except this one is now complete. Let me do linear one more time. Outside corner, inside corner, pull out to place, perpendicular. Select that line, hover over that grip, continue dimension, inside corner of the footing, outside corner of the footing, enter, escape. So we have now inserted all of our line 1 dimension except for these two. We just use overall for that. Now we can get rid of the guideline now, because now that we have our lines on the outside, same distance apart 600, on paper, when it is printed 50 times smaller, it will become 12, because the baseline distance that we set up earlier in the dimension style had a distance of 12, and that is where we're going to be using it for line 2 and 3. So I'm going to erase this line, select the guideline, enter, and all we're left with now is just the all we're left with right now is the dimension that we have here, because the guidelines is now gone. So we're going to do line 2, which is going to be an overall dimension. Once I select the 450 dimension, again, I'll get the same grips, and my distance going, my dimension will run from this end to that end. So of course, it is the second grip. This time when we hover, we choose baseline, and it's going to jump up and give us line 2 automatically at 600 away. So no need to offset 1200 now to get another 600. And it's overall, so it's that corner. Baseline can only give one dimension per row. It wants another one. I'll press escape because it's the only one that I need. Escape. Select this one. Likewise, now the 450 dimension. Hover over the second grip, going in the direction you want to go. Baseline. Go all the way down. Select the outside corner. Escape. Likewise down here. Select your 450. Hover on this side. Baseline. It goes out at the distance and click. That's it for that line. Round here, we will do the same thing. 450, hover over that grip, baseline dimension, and then we move down to the opposite corner, escape. I'll do just 2 internal dimension or a couple. So linear, again, can be used for this inside corner and that corner and pull out. Give some room for my stiffener, which I need to measure for. So I'll also use linear from this corner. All right, let me go with the corner below, linear. From that corner to that corner, 976. Or we could take it from the, let's take it from the, where it was, from the stiffener to the stiffener. We're lining out, you know, where to accommodate that, which is the 976. All right, likewise, we can do the same down here on the inside. Dim linear from this stiffener to that stiffener and place it about there. And around here, we will do linear again from this outside corner to that inside corner and then place. We don't have to get it exactly at the 600. As long as it looks reasonable, we can work with that. So all of our dimensions are currently in, which means that we would have completed the foundation plan technically by adding all of these dimensions. Now the dimensioning was taught in the previous video when we looked at how you dimension the floor plan. So that's how the dimension was set up and how you use it. The focus in this case here was just to insert the dimensions after we have completed our foundation plan. So we're going to end the foundation plan at this stage now that we have everything, except that if we were going to be putting a footing detail, we would need to cut a section across here, right? But I will not add that because it will not be a part of our drawing. But if you were going to do the footing detail, then you would need to put in the cutting plane line, which you would get from tool palette. I can demonstrate that, and then afterwards I'll remove it since it's not a part of the exercise that you will be working on. So to add that, you would go to your tool palette, TP. Of course, we would do it in text layer, so we could change it afterwards. And then on your annotation tab, there's the option for section callout metric. And bring it in, drop it somewhere off here, and select it, and use the grip here to rotate it 90. Of course, we would want it in the text layer as well. Then you could resize it by hot gripping here, bring that smaller in so it doesn't cut across. And you could double click and rename that. So here we would have like A-A, and we could use a text style that could work for us. So here we go to text option, observe your justification all the time. Bottom center is what it is. I'm going to use RT50 and then put back. You notice it actually moved that out of place. So the bottom center, which is what the justification was, I have reassigned it and it comes back. I won't focus on the sheet number. That can be adjusted when the drawings are placed on sheet later on. So basically, that's how you would put in your cutting plane line. Now, if you're not going to draw the footing detail, there's no need to add that, but I just put it because it's a part of the foundation plan. All right, so we basically have concluded how you would do the foundation plan. First, you would turn your lines into polylines. Remember, when you're doing the foundation plan, we do not include those non-load bearing walls. In our case, there were two walls. We have the linen closet and the closed closet wall. So what we did was to make a copy of the walls from our floor plan before we included any openings and any other non-load bearing wall. Then we would, of course, join those lines to turn them into polylines so that when we offset them in the current layer, it will take on the properties along with our annotation scale, of course, set to 1 in 50. All right, so that is why our lines are displaying these breaks. All right, so basically, that's how you create your foundation plan. Hope everyone was able to learn something. See you in the next session where we will now look at how you create a detail, a footing detail. That's what I would normally go into next. All right? Have a good day, everyone.